Nick, and I am back at the beach. Thank you for joining us in this live stream. It's been a couple weeks since I put together a vertical live stream for the folks, and I'm going to apologize in advance. I cannot see the comments because it is so sunny out here. What a problem to have. So I'm wading in the water right now, literally, and I just want to enjoy some time with the folks. I'm going to be talking about an abundant mindset. It is going to be a book I'm going to be publishing here, and I'm going to be talking on about it at Sanctuary Church here this Friday at over here in the Jacksonville area. So if you guys are in the area of Jacksonville, St. Augustine, Orlando, if you're from Savannah, or even over actually even Tallahassee, it wouldn't be that far. I'm going to be talking 6:30 Sanctuary Church, and definitely be there because it is going to blow you away. It's probably going to be one of those messages that will probably transform your life in a big way. So I'm going to be taking a topic from that sermon, as well as the book that I'm going to release from it, and talk about what an abundant mindset is, because an abundant mindset is not accepting what your reality is in order for you to be able to receive something greater. And believe it or not, the first step of having an abundant mindset is actually having an abundant mindset. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, because when you're dealing with any form of physical, spiritual, emotional bondage in any way, shape, or form, if you're caught in problems of the world, the reality is you're not going to be able to understand abundance because you're trapped. But that's actually the point in which you need to receive abundance, because when you're operating in abundance, you don't operate in lack. That's the opposite. And when you understand when you're operating in lack, that's why your life is in the problem that it's in. When God talked about shalom in the Old Testament, this is really important. I want people to grasp this, because if you're new to my channel, you're really going to understand some pretty awesome things. They would talk about shalom, shalom, which translated into English is perfect peace. But when you really translate what it means, is it means perfect peace over every part of your life. So if there's a part of your life that isn't perfect and perfectly at rest, perfectly in peace, what happens is you're not in shalom, shalom. You're not in perfect peace, whether that's your finances, whether that's your health, whether that's relationships, whether that's school or work. I know it's summer, so if you're younger and you're on school break, this is the thing that a lot of people miss, because an abundant mindset unlocks those things that God has planned for you, because you're receiving them and you're ready to receive. So let me take you on a little journey here, and even though I'm backing up in the water, I want to kind of walk you through an example of what an abundant mindset is, so that you can apply that in your life. And I really want you to grasp this. This is so important for you to get, because when you start to unlock these core principles in your life, you're going to then recognize the very things that you need to do in order to be very successful. And so the first thing is that God had me go through this journey recently, where he had me oh, I lost my job last November. If you're watching this channel, you've probably heard me talk about this a few times. Lost my job at was actually Cyber Monday, and technically speaking, that's 2 days from now, so it'll be 8-month anniversary. And one of the things that he did was he took away my job, and he said, "Hey, you didn't trust me with your finances." And in retrospective, I didn't. But in the time, I was like, "No, I do. I bless. I tithe. I do my thing. I'm doing my part. I'm talking to him about works, right? And those things are that's never a good thing to have a conversation with God about your works, because they're literally pale in comparison to what he done, especially what Jesus did on the cross. And so what he did is that he said you're operating from a position of lack, because you were taking your finances and keeping control rather than unlocking them. And so what he did is he had me go on this journey over these last 8 months. And what he did is he had me show me all the different parts of my life in the financial realm, which I had not conceded to him. And because of that, what it did is it put a vice grip on my finances that I couldn't get out of. And at the time, I was compiling debt. I was, caught in, things that I hadn't done. Like, I was in a worldly system previously, and I drug all these things into the picture. And what God did was, is what he said is, if you trust me with your finances and walk out life the way I want you to, what will happen is you will then experience the abundance that you need, but you have to trust me. So I had to surrender my finances. This is the journey that God took me on, is that he had me go through, and we started officially the ministry. And in that journey, what he did was, is he started having us go through a monetization process online. We picked up external ministries and churches that we support and do social media editing with. And he had me on this journey where he was establishing and creating all the very things that he needed. He needed me to steward the people that were in front of me, because that's who God had given me in order to be successful. Unfortunately, they had to be taught relentlessly, and as well as they had to be disciplined. Was not comfortable conversations, but they needed to be upgraded, and I needed them to upgrade themselves. And so God continued this process, and then he opened up another project for us, and another set of work, and another customer. And next thing you know, what he did was, is he put in place all the financial infrastructure that we needed in order to thrive over this 8-month period. And then recently we got this notice the other day that our mortgage, or at least our mortgage payment, went up because we escrow taxes and we escrow insurance. And while we still haven't figured out exactly the reason for it, but our taxes doubled, and actually more than doubled, and added a tremendous amount of money on our monthly payment. Like, if I told you the amount, people would be saying, like, that's more than my rent. And this is what it went up. And so God showed me, walked me through a budgeting process that said, hey, you're good. Don't worry about it. We went through this, we looked at it, did 12-month progress report, and boom, totally covered. But the reason why I was covered from a financial perspective was because I had already applied the abundant mindset principles that he had shown me, which was surrendering my finances to him and trusting him in my day-to-day life. But the thing was, is that 8 months ago, he didn't tell me all the things that I know today. But what it was a daily walk of obedience that God wanted out of me in order for me to achieve those very things. And so that's the one point that I really want to kind of impress upon everyone today, is that if you want to have an abundant mindset and you want to start to operate in kingdom principles, you have to start at your point of surrender. Like, that's going to be key. You start your prayer life, start in those areas that you're controlling. If you're controlling a part of your life and haven't yielded that to God, that's going to be a place where he's going to want you to give that up, because those are the areas. Sorry, um, sorry, just actually just getting over an illness last week. Thank God, he's kind of healed me of that. But the thing that God will show you is that your abundant mindset starts at the points that you control, and at the point you control that you're willing to surrender to him. That's where you're going to start to see abundance. You're going to see abundance skyrocket. You're going to see abundance grow in all the areas of your life that you're willing to surrender to God, because you're willing to give him those places. In every area of your life that doesn't have perfect peace, that doesn't have all the things that you want, I can guarantee it is an area that you're controlling, that you refuse to yield up to God. And an abundant mindset shows that whenever you're operating from a posture of surrender, this is so important. When you're operating from a posture of surrender, that's when you are strong. When you are weak, you are strong. When you are yielded, you are strong. When you are surrendered, you are strong. So take that in heart. If you are operating in a mindset, in a position where you want to be better at something, let's say you're struggling with studies in school. Maybe you're struggling with work. Maybe you have a work assignment you can't overcome. It's not going to be out of the realm for God to say, hey, surrender that to me. And then God puts someone in your life that will then allow you to be successful. Because believe it or not, we're not supposed to walk life out by ourselves. And an abundant mindset knows that you can't do things by yourself. An abundant mindset knows that you don't know all things. But yet, with a group of people, you can solve it. Because guess what? That's Bible. Because God said that. He said that if at the Tower of Babel, he said, if look at what these people can do of one language. If they could come together, there'll be nothing that'll be impossible for him. Think about that. Think about that word nothing will be impossible for them. That means that God said, think about this from this perspective, that God said that people would be able to figure out a way to get to heaven if God had not confused their speech at the Tower of Babel. That's what that means. He said nothing will be impossible for them. Those were the words of the king. He said those things. So if nothing was going to be impossible for a group of people that came together to do things, then if you're struggling with something, sometimes it just takes a group of people to break you out of it. Because God will put people in your life to help you get set free. God will put people to be able to steward you through a current season in order to upgrade you to the next season. And that's important. That's important. That's being an abundant mindset is surrendering. Maybe surrendering to your spouse a little bit more and allowing him or her the opportunity to help you. Maybe tell them your problems. Maybe they'll pray with you. Maybe they may not be the solution, but they may open the door that does. Have a conversation with a friend or a neighbor. Have a conversation with someone at church, someone at work, someone at school. Have those conversations because what you'll see is wherever you're struggling, wherever you're having problems with, whatever you are falling short in, I can assure you that God's got a solution for you. And that abundant mindset is what unlocks it because guess what? The first step in abundant mindset is surrender. When you surrender to God and you give up the very thing you're clinging to, and then you accept that, hey, I'm not smart enough. I'm not intelligent enough. I'm not capable of it. I don't have the right level of talents, then God will give them to you. Believe it or not. If you don't think you can ask God for more intelligence, let me tell you something. You can do that. Not only can you ask God for more intelligence, you can ask God for more wisdom, more discernment, more knowledge, more intelligence, the capacity to hold it. Ask for it all. Don't be limited to the very thing that you're doing today because you can't ask God for a simple thing like, hey, make me smarter. Because look what he did with Solomon. Look what he did with Solomon. When Solomon needed to run the nation, he was a young man, probably in his early 20s, most likely. We're probably going to expect at the time that he had this conversation, he was very young. And he's like, I can't run a nation of this scale. I don't know how to do this, but you do. And so give me the capability, give me the discernment to make good decisions. And in some translations, it means wisdom. And so when you recognize that God is the giver of good things and he can do more for you, and that the more you can surrender to him, because Solomon surrendered to him. Solomon surrendered to him and said, hey, I can't do this on my own. I can't, but you can. And not only can you do it, but you can give me the capability to do it with you. Let's partner and let's make it happen. And that's what happened. And so when you start to understand the power of God and all the things that God can do for you in your life, the abundant mindset, the reality is it's all about surrender. It's all about giving in and going into a place of obedience, going into a place where you can understand that, hey, I have to give something up. And God's not going to take everything off your plate at once. I can assure you of that because then your life would go straight into the toilet for sure because you wouldn't be able to handle it. But he will take one thing off your plate to start and he'll take a second one. And he may take off more than one things at a time. There's no question about that. But he will be a good God and steward you through this entire process. And when he does, you will be very, very successful every step of the way. And that's what happened with me. I mean, my story the last 8 months has been an incredible story. And I look at the income and the expenses that we need to be able to afford to be able to live in one of the most expensive places probably in the world, to be fair. And and at the end of the day, it's God just continues to provide, and it doesn't matter what the devil does from an expense perspective. You want to raise the food prices, which he clearly did. If you want to raise the cost of living, which he clearly did, you want to be able to raise the value of our assets and therefore our taxes. Guess what? He did that too, but that doesn't matter because God's. I operate from a kingdom economy. I operate from an economy that has no end. So it doesn't matter how much the world tries to challenge my expenses and my costs and all those things with it. God's got more money. He has more capability. He has more in the bank because owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. The silver is his, the gold is his. And so that's the essence of who God is. That's the essence of who God is capable of doing. And he did it for my life and he could do it for you. And all it did was just for me. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, he had to make the action because I wasn't, he had been wrestling with me for this decision for a long time. And I do believe maybe in retrospect, he probably wanted me to leave on my own choice, but I didn't know for sure. And so he made the choice for me. And so we moved forward and it's been great ever since. I mean, I can assure you it took me a couple months to get into a posture of peace because when you start operating an abundant mindset, it's kind of unsettling, to be honest with you, at first. because you're like, oh my gosh, this is what faith walk is. This is what the Christian uncomfort level means. Ah, okay. But at the end of the day, I won't change anything that happened for anything because it is game changing. And not only is it game changing, it actually will set up so many different things. And so here we have, in that time, we've started two new businesses. We've helped tons of people come to the Lord, and we continue to grow and we continue to do a lot of amazing things. And so these things are growing, they're self sustaining. These things that we put in place is, I don't need to continue to put my hand to the plow. The plow takes care of itself. It's autopilot. I don't have a Tesla autopilot with an AI generated system behind it because, but I got a God that does it for me, and has put people in my life that's going to be able to rise above the water line and become very successful. And that's what He has done, and that's what He'll do for you. And what He does for me, He'll do for anyone. God's a respecter of no persons. And so, yeah, take away this first point of abundant mindset, an opportunity to be in a posture of surrender. And in order to take on an abundant mindset, you have to take on an abundant mindset, and that takes a surrendered posture. And so, hope everyone has a great day. God bless. And I apologize I wasn't able to get to the comments because it is so sunny here. I can't see anything. It's just a great problem to have, but the screen is literally almost black. Even without the sunglasses, it's going to be nearly impossible to read. So I hope everyone had a great day, and we'll catch up with you again soon.